I told you the man running Harley-Davidson right now isn't saving it, but rather he's tearing it apart from the inside. Most riders don't know what's really happening behind the scenes, but once you hear this, you might never look at Harley the same way again. Harley-Davidson is facing something far worse than a financial downturn. It's facing an identity crisis, and a lot of riders, dealers, and die-hard fans are pointing their fingers at one man, Jochen Zeitz. Sit back while we break down exactly how Harley's leadership is pushing the company toward a future a lot of riders never asked for, and why it could cost Harley everything it once stood for. Let's get into it. When Jochen Zeitz took over Harley-Davidson, he came in promising a new era for the company. He talked about streamlining operations, refocusing the brand, and modernizing the message. All the classic corporate buzzwords, the kind that sound great in boardrooms, on conference calls, and in shareholder meetings. But out in the real world, out where the riders live, it felt like a slap in the face. Because streamlining didn't just mean cutting costs, it meant cutting the heart out of Harley's lineup. Under Zeitz, Harley started slashing long-standing model bikes that had earned loyalty over decades, bikes that weren't just machines but memories. At the same time, Harley shifted its focus hard toward electric bikes, pouring millions into projects like the Livewire, Silent Rides, digital dashboards, sleek urban styling. It was a complete rebrand, a clear move to appeal to a younger, more urban, eco-conscious crowd. But here's the problem. That new fantasy market, the one Harley was trying so hard to impress, wasn't lining up at dealerships. They weren't buying bikes in big numbers, especially not at Harley's premium price tags. And meanwhile, for the loyal riders, the lifers, the ones who kept Harley alive through good times and bad, they felt abandoned. They watched their favorite models disappear. They watched the brand they loved morph into something they barely recognized. Because you can't rebuild loyalty when you throw loyalty away. You can't expect riders to keep believing in you when you stop believing in what made you special in the first place. Under Jochen Zeitz, Harley wasn't evolving. It was leaving its brotherhood behind, and the cracks were just starting to show. Think this couldn't get worse? Wait until you see how Harley started eating itself from the inside out. One of Jochen Zeitz's first major moves as CEO was to start slashing Harley's lineup. And it wasn't small tweaks or minor adjustments. It was deep cuts. Gone were some of the fan-favorite model bikes that didn't just sell units, but built communities. Bikes that carried decades of history, thousands of miles of memories, and legions of devoted riders behind them. The Softail Deluxe, the Sportster 48, the street models, all either discontinued completely or pushed so far into the background they might as well have been erased. Let's be clear, Harley wasn't just trimming unnecessary parts. They weren't making small improvements. They were cutting deep, removing some of the most important bikes and traditions that kept the brand alive. These were the bikes that made Harley accessible to real-world riders. They were affordable, approachable, and packed with the attitude that made you feel like a Harley rider, even if it was your first time throwing a leg over a V-twin. As for the Softail Deluxe, it wasn't just a bike. It was a love letter to old-school cruising. The 48 wasn't just a Sportster. It was a stripped-down, raw piece of American muscle that fit any street. And the street models? They were supposed to bring young, urban riders into the fold as entry points into the Harley family. And now, instead of entry points, you're looking at bigger price tags and fewer options. A lineup that feels heavier, richer, and a lot more distant from the everyday rider. And with this, a growing, undeniable sense that Harley-Davidson, the brand that once flew its blue-collar roots like a battle flag, was quietly leaving those roots behind, trading authenticity for exclusivity. And just when you thought the damage was done, Zeitz doubled down in a way that stunned even Harley's most loyal fans. Jochen Zeitz wasn't shy about it when he took control of Harley-Davidson. He made it clear. He believed the future of Harley lay in electric motorcycles. But the classic thunder of the Harley engine, the loud, rebellious sound that riders loved for generations, wasn't part of Jochen Zeitz's vision for Harley's future. Instead, Zeitz bet big on the Livewire, a sleek, modern, fully electric motorcycle that looked nothing like a classic cruiser and sounded even less like one. The Livewire launch was positioned as Harley's bold new step forward. It was supposed to redefine Harley-Davidson for a new generation of riders. It was meant to be the bike that bridged Harley's legendary past into a bright, sustainable, modern future. But there was one massive problem no one at the top seemed to want to admit, which is the core Harley base. The men and women who built the brand weren't asking for any of it. They weren't looking for silent rides. They weren't looking for touchscreen menus or eco-messaging. They weren't asking for Harley to abandon the roar that made them feel something deep in their chest every time they cracked the throttle. Because for a real rider, a Harley rider, there's something sacred about that sound. Is it the vibration through your boots? The thunder between your ribs, or the way the bike feels alive underneath you, roaring into the distance. And no matter how fast an electric bike could launch, no matter how high-tech the display, couldn't replace that experience. Not for the people who built Harley-Davidson into a legend with their own hands and hearts. Instead of listening to their base, the riders who kept the brand alive for generations, Harley pushed an electric future that almost none of their loyal audience asked for. It felt like another betrayal, another decision made in a boardroom for a market that didn't even exist yet. And when the Livewire hit dealerships, the reality came fast. Sales didn't take off like Harley expected. The younger, tech-driven crowd they were targeting didn't show up with money to buy the bikes, because for most of them, the Livewire was just too expensive. And for the loyal Harley riders, the ones who loved the old rumble and spirit of the Livewire, didn't even feel like a real Harley anymore. A $30,000 price tag for a silent battery-powered motorcycle didn't scream freedom of the open road. It screamed corporate experiment. Worse enough, the electric pivot made many longtime riders feel like Harley had fully turned its back on them. First, Harley stripped down the lineup. Then they abandoned the sound, the spirit, the soul. And now, they are asking their loyal base to accept it all without question. But Harley's true riders don't just buy motorcycles, they buy into a lifestyle, into a belief. And belief can't be updated with a software patch. As for the numbers, the story is fast. The excitement fizzled. And Harley, once the king of the road, found itself stuck in an identity crisis halfway between a rebellious past and a sanitized, soulless future. The truth is, innovation isn't the enemy. But when you innovate by abandoning the very DNA that made you great, you're not evolving, but rather erasing yourself. And under Jochen Zeitz's leadership, Harley's electric obsession wasn't just a gamble. It was a dangerous bet against everything Harley riders ever believed in. And if you think losing the roar was bad, what Zeitz is doing behind closed doors is even more dangerous. Because while the headlines focused on Harley's electric gamble, something even more dangerous was happening quietly behind the scenes. Harley-Davidson, once the gold standard of authenticity, had started selling off pieces of its own identity. Not the motorcycles themselves or the riding experience, but everything around it. Today, Harley sells everything from branded cologne to high-end coffee mugs. From denim jackets stitched for fashion shows to mass-produced accessories stamped with the Bar and Shield logo. And while it might look like harmless marketing from the outside, the shift underneath is far more serious. Because under Jochen Zeitz's leadership, Harley isn't positioning itself as a motorcycle company first anymore. It's positioning itself as a lifestyle brand, a global merchandising machine, company that sells the idea of freedom more than it sells the machines that actually deliver it. And that shift isn't just a marketing decision, it's a betrayal. The Harley brand was built on authenticity, on grit, rebellion, brotherhood, and the open road. It wasn't built to be polished up, packaged neatly, and sold in mall kiosks alongside energy drinks and designer handbags. The soul of Harley was earned through calloused hands, busted knuckles, long rides, late nights, and the stubborn pride of a community that didn't need to explain itself to anyone. When you start treating your brand like a logo instead of a legacy, when you reduce it to something you can slap on keychains and cologne bottles, then you lose something far more valuable than revenue, which is belief. And as we know, belief is everything. It's what makes a Harley more than just a machine. It's what turns two wheels and an engine into a symbol of freedom, brotherhood, and rebellion. When riders see their brand being sold piece by piece, in places that have nothing to do with motorcycles, it doesn't create new loyalty. It creates doubt. It cheapens the story. It makes the riders, the ones who bleed orange and black, feel like they're part of a marketing campaign instead of a real community. And that doubt spreads fast, because people can forgive a bad marketing campaign. They can forgive a bad model year. They can even forgive corporate mistakes. But once you show them that your loyalty lies with profits over people, once they realize the brotherhood was replaced by spreadsheets, you don't just lose sales. You lose the very foundation your brand was built on. And no amount of sponsorships, celebrity endorsements, or influencer campaigns can rebuild that once it's gone. Harley's greatest strength was never just its motorcycles. It was its authenticity, its soul. And under Jochen Zeitz, that soul is being sold off quietly, piece by piece, until one day riders might wake up and realize that what's left behind isn't Harley-Davidson anymore. It's just a name, logo, and memory. And memories don't roar down highways, they fade away. Harley-Davidson didn't just build motorcycles, it built a symbol, a flag, and a way of life. It stood for rebellion, for freedom, for the spirit that couldn't be bottled, branded, or sold off to the highest bidder. It stood for something raw, something real, something you felt the moment you twisted the throttle and heard that deep rumble answering back. Harley was a promise, a pact between the brand and the rider, that this machine wasn't just transportation, but liberation. But today, under Jochen Zeitz's leadership, Harley is losing that soul. And it's not happening all at once. It's happening quietly, one decision at a time, piece by piece. It's not just about electric bikes. It's not just about cutting models. It's not just about chasing new markets or dressing up in new buzzwords. It's about losing the heart of what made Harley sacred in the first place. It's about trading authenticity for branding, community for corporate structure, brotherhood for boardroom approval. And the saddest part? Once you lose that heart, once you let it slip away, you can't just buy it back with a marketing campaign. You can't patch it with a flashy ad or a new product launch. Because loyalty doesn't come from logos. It comes from belief. The question now isn't what Harley says next. It's not what PR statement they issue. It's not what flashy slogan they hang in dealerships. The real question, the only question that matters, is whether the riders will stay, whether they'll keep believing, or whether they'll ride off into the sunset, taking the spirit of Harley-Davidson with them and leaving behind a brand that forgot what it was riding for in the first place. Because the truth is simple. You can sell motorcycles. You can sell merchandise. You can even sell an image. But you can't sell brotherhood. You have to live it. And right now, Harley-Davidson is at a crossroads. And only the riders can decide which way the story ends. So what do you think? Is Jochen Zeitz saving Harley-Davidson or destroying it? Drop your thoughts in the comments section and don't forget to like and subscribe, because Harley's future might not be decided in boardrooms. It'll be decided out on the road.